Right.
However. Okay. We're being recorded. Are we being broadcast as well? Is that the plan?
The plan.
We can't live stream because we've already streamed once today through our agenda.
I don't think I heard all that, but I think the first sentence was we can't live stream.
Apparently.
Okay, well then we should probably move ahead.
Mhm.
All right, step one. Moved by Councillor Jarvis, seconded by Councillor Bocheck. Be it resolved, the council does reconvene the meeting of council at 12:05 p.m. on March 15th, 2022. All those in favor? And that is carried. So what we have is a couple of items from new business that we didn't get to. And the first one is a 2-page resolution provided by Georgian Bay Forever in regard to microfibers. It is a page and a half of whereases. Do you like me to read them all, or does everybody have them memorized from yesterday, so to speak? Okay, I see lots of nods. And then a number of therefores. Now therefore be resolved that Township of Georgian Bay recognizes that to date the largest documented source of environmental microfibers is washing machines, and that findings indicate washing machine filters mitigate the majority of fibers shed during machine washing. And be it further resolved that the Township of Georgian Bay recognizes the need to require future sales of washing machines to include filters with a maximum mesh size of 100 microns. And be it further resolved that the Township of Georgian Bay calls on the Ontario government to pass Bill 279 and to call on the Canadian and US governments to create appropriate regulatory measures to the same effect. And be it further resolved that until households can only buy new laundry machines outfitted with 100 micron filters, the Township of Georgian Bay and its members call on provincial, state, and federal governments to provide funding and education to help constituents reduce microfiber waste and more research funded on effects of microfiber pollution. And be it finally resolved that Council for the Township of Georgian Bay directs its staff to submit this resolution to the federal and provincial representatives. I'm not quite sure why there's state in the one, but I don't think it does any harm. That is the resolution moved by Councillor Wienko and seconded by Councillor Cooper. And is there any discussion before I call the vote? Is it, obviously based on the delegation of yesterday morning. Councillor Bocheck, was that a waive or wanting to discuss?
No, that was something other than council.
Okay. Ooh, okay. Well, then I'll call the vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. Councillor Hazelton, and your hand go up? No, you're not voting in favor. Okay, but that is carried. Thank you. All right, our second item. And this is the Georgian Bay Historical Society follow-up of their presentation, and the resolution in front of me is moved by Councillor Bocheck, seconded by Councillor Wienko. Be it resolved that Council supports the Georgian Bay Historical Society's desire to have a driving shed at 45 Lone Pine Road, and that Council supports 45 Lone Pine Road being named the Bressette Homestead Heritage Park. And that Council directs staff to work with the Georgian Bay Historical Society to determine the approximate costs and a work plan to build a driving shed at 45 Lone Pine Road. And that staff report back to Council regarding the cost to erect a driving shed and the portion requested to be funded from the township. That's the resolution as drafted. Any discussion? Councillor Wienko, please.
Yeah, I would obviously support the resolution. I think most of council was quite keen on this whole thing. The issue I had, and I wanted just to bring up, is that this is fairly simple to me and to the Historical Society. It's a very simple structure. Obviously, they need some footies and so on, but I think when they were talking to Brad or somebody at the township, there was a need for a survey and an engineer to be involved, and I don't know what other activities, which made the whole process look very cumbersome and somewhat concerning to the Historical Society. I know the Historical Society has some money. I don't know how much, but they're willing to put in some money on this whole thing and some labor. But now they get caught up in the township red tape about proceeding. So yeah, you can bring a report back saying what has to be done, but I would hope it would be minimalistic in the way of reviews or whatever in order to get this structure built and up by the spring so we could use it. So I don't know what latitude the township staff has to minimize the efforts and so on. And of course, there's a cost associated, which I would hope the township would cover the preliminary and the costs. And then they can talk to the Historical Society about what joint funding they could do for building it. But
Well,
is there a way that we can minimize the upfront studies?
I
Yes,
see
that's
Mr.
what I-
Fedori turned his screen on, followed a little later by Dr. Spilla. So let's see what they have to say. Mr. Fedori, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. I can speak to the structure. I won't comment on the survey or the requirements for it. That'll be up to Dr. Spilla. The structure, when Mr. Breckbill first approached me, he wanted to put it on deck blocks. Not a chance. The amount of wind that structure is going to capture and move, you're going to have people in there. It needs Part 4 design. It needs to be stamped by an engineer. The location where it's going, I don't know what kind of soils they're going to find there. Back when I was in Public Works, it was a bog back in there. I mentioned to them that they may be able to do techno posts, which would get them down in the ground. There was talk about using some ungraded lumber in the structure and the beams. It needs to be done right. You're having people in there, you're having vendors in there, and we don't want no one to get hurt and no lawsuits to follow with the Township of Georgian Bay.
I like the idea of the technoposts or the helical piles.
Well, that would be the most less evasive for them to go down. If not, and they'll end up with big feet and they'll disturb a lot of soil. But the plan, once they get a stamped engineered drawing, I believe Brad's worked out with Tatum or a few of the engineering firms to see if they could get a reduced rate. We want to protect everyone.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Dr. Spilla, do you have anything to add from a planning perspective? And then I'll go to Councilor Wojcik.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Coutts here. So we've had some preliminary discussions with the organization that's seeking to set up the drive shed. We're willing to help out with respect to streamlining the site plan control procedure or process because the township's partnering or having involvement with this proposal. And it would be appropriate to waive any fees for the site plan application, in this case, given township involvement. One thing we are looking for, though, that we do require is we need to know where the setbacks will be precisely. And that's common that we ask of every applicant for every building, and that will require a survey.
Thank you. Councilor Wojcik.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess everything has been said now. My point was that this is a community project and that the Historical Society should not be burdened with any fees for building or planning because it is for the community. It's not for them. And I'd rather see them use their funds for something more important. And that's it. Thank you.
Councilor Hazelton.
Thank you. I just wanted to leverage what I think I heard from our lawyer this morning, where we don't have to enforce some of the bylaws. And I guess one of the bylaws says we have to have a survey And if this is a reasonably well understood property, then perhaps that could be another area that we bypass. Obviously, surveys are fairly expensive. So I'm just looking for every possible way that we can, every step we can take here to enable a community venue like this. I'm not suggesting we look the other way in a bad way, but unless there's absolute need for doing a couple of things here, I'd say let's find a way to do it safely, but without formal administrative challenges. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper.
A lot of the comments just made were sort of the ones I've been interested in terms of reducing the red tape wherever we can. If this shed is going to be set back somewhat, and we know the property well, I understand we need soil, make sure that the soil can support this structure, but I wonder about the survey. Whether that, and by the way, surveys to get them completed today is really tough. There's a long waiting list for surveys. So let's see what we can do to facilitate this. And by the way, maybe somebody can explain to me exactly, is this where the current, I don't know whether it's a tent or whatever that is there for the market, is it in that area or is it behind it's in the same, more or less the same area?
Slightly, yeah, slightly over. Yeah, like in other words, they're not replacing the one that Hewitt is currently using, but it would be just behind it, if you will, looking from the road.
So further in a sense.
Yeah.
So we've got setbacks anyway. Anyway, I'm just trying to say if we can reduce the red tape aspect of it would be great. Thank you.
Well, I think that there's a very consistent message, and I'm quite happy to join into that consistent message. I think we all agree that this is a great project for the area. I think it'd be very useful. Don't want to argue one iota with Mr. Fedori's suggestion that it has to be safe. I mean, that's got to be a primary purpose, and I think his suggestion of the helical piles might be the end solution that works for everybody, because you want it anchored. You don't want it to blow away or fall on top of anybody. But other than that, I think council definitely wants to encourage staff to do whatever they can to be as efficient as possible in making this move forward. Councilor Rienko.
There was mention of a report coming back to council next month. Do we need a report? Can we just go out and hire an engineer and get that work done and work within it? Like, obviously, we're kind of approving it right now. Do we really need to wait another month to get a report from staff? Like, haven't they got better things to do? I'm just trying to make this program go a little faster.
Ms. Boudiette.
Through your worship, I was on the same train of thought. We have crafted a revised motion. If Clerk Way would be so kind to bring it up and see if this would expedite the matter in relation to what council is discussing.
I do appreciate how our clerk and our CAO in a number of occasions are listening to us and working as we talk and making them up, being able to propose modifications. I think very, very much appreciated. Okay, be resolved, the council supports the Georgian Bay Historical Society desire to have a driving shed at 45 Lone Pine Road, and that, let me move the views of people, and that council agrees to the addition of the drive shed with funding for the engineering, permitting, survey, administration of the project at a maximum cost of $11,000 funded from infrastructure reserve, and that Georgian Bay Township Historic Society will be responsible for the supply of all materials and labor required for the build, and the council supports 45 Lone Pine Road being named the Bressette Homestead Heritage Park. All right, so you've already come up with a cost estimate, a maximum cost estimate, and basically we're saying with this motion, let's go. All right, Council Bocek, I did see your hand earlier, sorry.
That's okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My understanding is that probably a survey isn't needed. We've done these projects in the past simply by creating a site plan and showing where all the buildings are on the site plan and show where this building is going to go. And further to that, the Historical Society doesn't own this property, so they wouldn't be able to procure a survey or anything else. It's the township's property, so the township would have to approve getting the survey and that done. So I'm glad to see the resolution written the way it was. It kind of puts the onus on us to get the engineering study or anything else done. So I'm quite happy with this, actually. Thank you.
Councilor Yanko.
The only concern I have is that, and I appreciate the township coming to the table with some funding on this. It did indicate there, though, that the Historical Society was responsible for the materials. I don't think they're going to argue with that. But when it comes to actually building it, we're talking about a group of people here that, I don't want to be facetious, but I feel young among them. So I don't know if I really want those individuals climbing ladders and so on. So yeah, you make them responsible for the construction, but I don't know if they themselves can actually do it. So do you want to make them responsible for the construction? Is that what you're trying to say? They may have to hire somebody. In other words, they may have to pay somebody to do it, but
Well, you know,
okay, maybe
in a month,
they're responsible for materials and construction.
I'm just thinking that in a month's time, Mr. Fedori will have lots of time on his hands. And he knows how to build things. Dr. Zvilla.
Thank you, Mayor Coots here. I just want to go back to reiterate a point. I think it's in the town, and I think town council should take this into consideration. We ask for surveys from all of our applicants for site plan. We shouldn't want to be creating the potential optics that we're providing special treatment for any organization. That could cause us a lot of additional work and discussions down the road should we choose not to require, or should council choose not to require a survey. So I urge council to take that into consideration.
But do consider the fact that the applicant in this case will be the township.
Exactly.
So I leave it up to the township to decide how they enforce their own rules. Councilor Bocek.
In saying that, perhaps we could find out how the Historical Society was able to build the Milne cabin 2 years ago there, relocated there, build all of the walkways and everything there in the past 5 years without a survey. I doubt it. I think probably there's a survey already on this property.
Survey made, yeah.
We put a house on there and everything else. I hope we didn't do it without a survey.
Councilor Cooper.
As to the point that's been raised about the survey, it is our land, and I like the expression. I'm sure many parents know this one: "Do as I say, not as I do." Thank you.
Shall we? You want me to read or shall we? Would you like to see the resolution one more time before I call the vote? Let's put it back up on screen, please. Okay, I have moved by Councilor Bocek, seconded by Councilor Wienko. Be it resolved, the council supports the Georgian Bay Historical Society's desire to have a driving shed at 45 Lone Pine Road. And the council agrees to the addition of the drive shed with the funding for the engineering, permitting, surveying, and administration of the project at a maximum cost of $11,000, funded from infrastructure reserve. And the Georgian Bay Township Historical Society will be responsible for the supply of all the materials. Shall we remove and labor in this case, so that we just say the supply of all the materials required for the build?
And construction. And construction for the build.
All the materials and construction required for the build.
Yeah.
And that council supports 45 Lone Pine Road being renamed, or sorry, being named the Bressette Homestead Heritage Park. Further discussion, I see Councilor Bocheck's hand and CEO Bouquet. Councilor Bocheck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just unsure if yesterday when they did their delegation, if they were looking for funding for the sign, or was that sign to be included in the $11,000 figure that was there? I don't remember if they asked for funding towards the sign or not.
I don't recall that either. I don't think so.
No, okay, thank you.
Ms. Bouquet.
Through your worship, in line with our practice we've been doing lately, council needs to determine if this shed will be an asset that will be included in our asset management plan, or if this asset will be decommissioned at its end of life. And if council chooses to add it to the asset management planning, we need to include another 0.17% to our future levies annually, as this is a new asset.
Okay, council, we're going to add 0.17% to our capital asset levy. I see nod. So let's put that sentence in.
Through your worship, if you give me one moment, I'm providing that sentence to the clerk.
Okay. And the council understands the annual capital cost of this project for the future replacement rehabilitation is $3,050 and agrees to a tax increase in the capital levy in 2023 of 0.17% to start funding this annual capital cost. All right, we don't know what the cost will be, but that's why not. All right, council. Once I can see everybody's face, I'm going to say all those in favor. And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, now we have a couple bylaws to pass. And the first one is moved by Councillor Cooper, second by Councillor Jarvis. Be it resolved that council hereby enacts bylaw 023, right? 24, 024, to repeal bylaw 2010-002, accessibility customer service policy. This was in connection of how we're replacing that bylaw. We had to get rid of the old one to for the new one, if you recall from yesterday. All those in favor? And that is carried. And then we have moved by Councillor Bocheck, seconded by Councillor Wienko. Be it resolved, the council hereby enacts bylaw 2022-025 to repeal and replace bylaw 2022-011 dark sky. So this is just officially putting in the dark sky bylaw after all the improvements or changes that we made to it. All those in favor? And that is carried. Then we have, be it resolved, Moved by Councillor Cooper, second by Councillor Hazelton, be it resolved that council adopts bylaw 2022-026 to confirm the proceedings of the March 5th, 14th, 15th, 2022 council meeting. All those in favor? And that is carried. And finally, moved by Councillor Wojcik, seconded by Councillor Jarvis. Be it resolved, the council does now adjourn at 12:30 p.m. until April 11th, 2022 at 9 a.m. or to call the chair. Councillor Cooper.
Sorry to jump in at the last minute here. I just wanted to say that I wanted to thank Councillor Wianco for raising the matter about recommendations. That was one of the most productive conversations we've had in council in this term. So way to go. Thank you.
Even though that was the prior meeting, but yes, it was a very good discussion. All those in favor? And that is carried. We are now adjourned.